Lady Eliza was a woman of 40 summers, a time when many thought a lady should be settled with a husband and children. But Eliza was not like many. Whispers followed her, giggles sometimes too, about her unmarried state. Still single at 40, imagine, they'd titter behind their fans. Yet, Eliza simply smiled. Their words were like faint breezes, barely stirring the leaves of her calm world. She found great joy in her quiet life. Her days were filled with the rustle of turning pages and the comforting scent of old books. Her small cottage, nestled at the edge of the village, was a haven of peace. Inside, bookshelves lined every wall, crammed with tales of faraway lands, brave knights, and clever heroines. Eliza would spend hours lost in these stories, her imagination painting vibrant pictures that far outshone the dull reality of village gossip. She cherished her solitude, finding companionship not in ballrooms, but in the wisdom of ancient poets and the adventures of fictional travelers. For Eliza, her books were her dearest friends, and her quiet life, her greatest treasure. The thought of a bustling household and demanding spouse seemed a poor trade for the rich world she held within her hands. While Eliza found contentment in her peaceful, book-filled world, far away, in grander halls, moved another figure who was also, in his own way, quite alone. This was the Duke of Atherton, Lord Alaric, a man whose name brought sighs from every young lady and nods of respect from every gentleman. He was incredibly handsome, with eyes like deep pools and a smile that could charm birds from trees. His manners were perfect, his wit sharp, and his wealth endless. Naturally, he was the most wanted bachelor in the entire kingdom. Every season, a fresh crop of hopeful young women tried to catch his eye. Mothers paraded their daughters before him, hoping for a match that would secure their family's future. But the Duke, despite his charm, remained untouched. He would dance with them, chat politely, and offer kind words, but his heart seemed to stay locked away. No one had ever truly captured his interest. He never looked at any lady with real seriousness, never spoke of marriage, and never seemed to long for a family. He lived a life of luxury and freedom, attending parties, hunting, and managing his vast lands, all without a serious thought for love or a bride. He was admired by all, yet truly known by none, a mystery wrapped in silk and charm. Life in the kingdom, usually quite predictable, was stirred by a grand announcement. The king and queen were hosting a magnificent royal ball, an event that promised to be the highlight of the social season. Invitations, sealed with royal wax, fluttered into every noble household, including Eliza's small, book-filled cottage. Eliza, who preferred the company of fictional characters to real ones, sighed when she saw the ornate card. Balls meant loud music, too many people, and endless chatter she found quite dull. Her cousin, Lady Beatrice, a woman who lived for social events, insisted Eliza must attend. "It's a royal command, Eliza. You can't refuse," Beatrice chirped, already planning Eliza's gown. Eliza tried to argue, mentioning her aversion to crowds and her perfectly good book awaiting her, but Beatrice was firm. So, with a heavy heart and a quiet wish to be invisible, Eliza agreed. Her only hope was to arrive, find a secluded spot, and spend the evening as unnoticed as a shadow. She picked a simple, dark blue gown, hoping its plainness would help her disappear into the background. She would go, make her appearance, and then, with luck, fade away like a forgotten whisper in the grand, bustling halls of the palace. The grand ballroom of the palace was a dizzying swirl of colors, music, and laughter. Ladies in sparkling gowns danced with gentlemen in fine suits, their chatter filling the air like 1,000 buzzing bees. Just as she had hoped, Eliza, in her simple blue dress, managed to slip away from the main festivities. She found a quiet alcove tucked away behind a tall, velvet curtain, near a large window looking out onto the moonlit gardens. It was perfect. She pulled out the small book she had tucked into her reticule, a collection of ancient poetry, and began to read, feeling a familiar calm wash over her. Meanwhile, the Duke of Atherton moved through the crowd with practiced ease, exchanging polite words and charming smiles. But inside, he felt a weariness. The conversations were always the same. Talk of the weather, new fashions, and whispered gossip. He yearned for something deeper, something real. His eyes, scanning the room, caught a glimpse of movement in a secluded corner. A woman, not dancing, not gossiping, but lost in a book. It was an unusual sight at such a lively event. He watched her for a moment, intrigued by her peaceful concentration, a stark contrast to the lively, yet shallow, atmosphere around him. The Duke, Lord Alaric, felt a pull towards the quiet figure in the alcove. Her calm nature, so different from the eager, chattering women who usually surrounded him, was like a cool breeze on a hot day. And her book. It was rare to see anyone, let alone a lady, engrossed in reading at such a grand event. This quiet devotion to literature spoke to something deep within him, a part of himself that also longed for substance beyond surface appearances. With a determined step, he began to walk across the ballroom. Heads turned as he moved, whispers following his path. Ladies straightened their gowns, hoping he was heading their way. Gentlemen paused their conversations, curious about his destination. But Alaric paid them no mind. He walked past the dancing couples, past the groups gossiping by the refreshments, and headed straight for Eliza's secluded spot. He stopped a few feet from her, clearing his throat gently. Eliza looked up, her eyes wide with surprise, a blush rising on her cheeks. She quickly closed her book. The Duke's presence there, speaking to her, a lady often overlooked, sent a ripple of shock through the room. A few gasps were heard, and many stopped dancing to stare. "Good evening, madam," the Duke said, his voice a pleasant rumble. Eliza, still flustered by his sudden appearance, managed a small curtsy. "Good evening, Your Grace," she replied, her voice a little breathy. He introduced himself, though of course, she already knew who he was. Then, to her surprise, he asked about her book. This simple question opened a door. What began as a polite inquiry soon turned into a deep conversation. They spoke of the poetry she was reading, of history, of philosophy, and even of the stars. Eliza found herself talking freely, something she rarely did with strangers, especially not with someone as grand as the Duke. He listened with genuine interest, his eyes bright, asking thoughtful questions that showed he truly cared about her answers. She, in turn, was fascinated by his insights, realizing he was far more than just a handsome face and a charming smile. They discovered a shared love for quiet contemplation and a deep understanding of the world that went beyond everyday chatter. Hours melted away as they talked, the noisy ball fading into the background. A special connection, warm and strong, began to grow between them, a feeling neither had known before. As Eliza and the Duke continued their deep conversation, a buzz of disbelief spread through the ballroom. Eyes constantly darted towards the unlikely pair. Young ladies who had spent weeks planning their gowns and rehearsing witty remarks now stood by, their faces a mixture of confusion and anger. "Why is he talking to her?" whispered Lady Amelia, fanning herself furiously. "She's so plain," added Lady Caroline, her voice dripping with scorn. They couldn't understand it. The Duke, the most sought-after bachelor, was spending the entire evening with Lady Eliza, a woman who rarely attended social events and was known more for her books than her beauty. She wasn't young, she wasn't dazzling, and she certainly wasn't trying to catch his eye. The other women, dressed in their finest silks and jewels, felt their efforts were being ignored. They had practiced their smiles, perfected their curtsies, and yet the Duke, Lord Alaric, had eyes only for the quiet woman in the corner. Jealous whispers turned into pointed glares, but Eliza and the Duke were so lost in their shared world that they barely noticed the stares or the growing pool of green-eyed envy around them. After that magical night at the ball, the Duke of Atherton, Lord Alaric, found himself drawn to Eliza's quiet cottage more and more often. He would arrive with thoughtful gifts, sometimes a vibrant bouquet of wildflowers he had picked himself, other times a rare, first-edition book he knew she would cherish. Eliza, at first surprised by his continued attention, soon began to look forward to his visits with a fluttering heart she hadn't known she possessed. Their conversations continued, often lasting for hours, covering everything from the latest philosophical debates to the simplest joys of a sunny afternoon. They would sit in her small garden, sipping tea, or by the fireplace when the evenings grew cool, always with a book open nearby. Alaric found himself sharing thoughts and feelings he had never expressed to anyone else, feeling a comfort and understanding with Eliza that was utterly new. He admired her intelligence, her gentle spirit, and the quiet strength that shone in her eyes. Eliza, in turn, saw past his ducal title and handsome face to the kind, thoughtful man beneath. Their initial connection, sparked at the ball, deepened with each passing day. What began as an unexpected friendship slowly, beautifully, began to blossom into something much more profound, something that whispered of love. The Duke's frequent visits to Eliza's cottage did not go unnoticed. Servants gossiped, merchants whispered, and soon, the entire society was abuzz with the unlikely romance. Tongues wagged endlessly about Lord Alaric, the most desired duke, spending his precious time with Lady Eliza, the quiet, unmarried woman of 40. Many found it scandalous, even ridiculous. It's a phase, some scoffed. He'll come to his senses, others declared, their voices laced with hope and envy. The ladies who had once laughed at Eliza for being single now turned their mockery on her for daring to capture the Duke's attention. She's far too old for him, they'd sneer, ignoring the fact that Alaric was not a young boy himself. What could he possibly see in her? She has no fortune, no beauty to speak of. The cruel remarks were passed around at every tea party and ball. Eliza heard some of it, of course. She would occasionally catch a dismissive glance or a snide comment. But just as before, their words held little power over her. She knew the truth of her connection with Alaric, a truth far richer and more meaningful than any shallow judgment. While the world saw an unlikely pair, Eliza and the Duke saw only each other. While society buzzed with unkind whispers, the Duke of Atherton did not shrink from showing his affection for Eliza. In fact, he seemed to grow bolder, as if to defy the wagging tongues. He would arrive at her cottage not just with gifts, but with an arm openly offered for their walks through the village, a clear sign of his devoted attention. At public gatherings, which Eliza now attended more often at his side, he would always seek her out, his gaze lingering on her with warmth and admiration. He would listen intently as she spoke, often offering her hand a gentle squeeze or a soft smile that was meant only for her. When others tried to draw him into frivolous conversation, he would politely redirect the topic or turn back to Eliza, making it clear that his focus, his interest, and his heart belonged to her. He didn't care about her age, her lack of a dowry, or what anyone else thought. He saw her wit, her wisdom, her kindness, and her genuine spirit. By his actions, by his unwavering devotion in the face of judgment, the Duke made it abundantly clear to everyone that Lady Eliza was not just a passing fancy, but someone truly special and deeply cherished. His proud display of affection began to silence some of the more timid gossips, leaving only the most stubborn to mutter in their corners. One clear, crisp evening, the Duke and Eliza were taking a stroll through her small, beloved garden. The moon hung full and bright in the velvet sky, and countless stars twinkled like scattered diamonds. The air was soft, filled with the scent of night-blooming jasmine. They had been talking about the constellations, a topic Eliza found endlessly fascinating, when Alaric stopped, turning to face her. His hand gently clasped hers, and his gaze was deep and earnest. "Eliza," he began, his voice a little softer than usual, "I've known many women, but I've never known anyone like you. Your mind, your spirit, your quiet strength. They have captivated me entirely." He paused, taking a deep breath. "I love you, Eliza. More than I ever thought possible. My life feels complete when I am with you." Eliza's heart pounded, a joyous drumbeat in her chest. She had hoped, of course, but to hear the words spoken aloud was another thing entirely. Then, he knelt before her, pulling a small, velvet box from his pocket. Inside, a beautiful ring with a single, shining sapphire caught the moonlight. "Lady Eliza," he said, looking up at her with shining eyes, "will you do me the great honor of becoming my Duchess? Will you marry me?" Eliza stared at the Duke, kneeling before her under the twinkling stars, the sapphire ring gleaming in his outstretched hand. A rush of emotions washed over her, surprise, joy, and a profound sense of wonder. Never in her wildest dreams had she imagined such a moment. She had long ago settled into the quiet contentment of her life, believing that grand love stories were only for the pages of her books. Yet here was Alaric, the most desired man in the kingdom, offering her his heart. A tear, bright as the sapphire, traced a path down her cheek. It was a tear of pure happiness. She looked into his eyes, seeing not just the Duke of Atherton, but the kind, intelligent, and deeply loving man who had seen beyond her age and quiet ways, who had truly found her soul. Her voice, when it came, was soft but firm, filled with all the love she felt. "Yes, Alaric," she whispered, "1,000 times yes." She reached out, her hand trembling slightly, and he gently placed the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. He rose, pulling her into a tender embrace, and under the vast, starry sky, they shared a kiss that promised a lifetime of shared dreams and unspoken understanding. The world, for Eliza, had just begun anew. The morning after the Duke's proposal, news spread like wildfire through the kingdom. The Duke of Atherton was engaged, but not to one of the dazzling young debutantes, nor to a lady of immense fortune or powerful connections. He was to marry Lady Eliza, the quiet, bookish woman of 40. The announcement sent shockwaves through every noble house, every village, every corner of society. Gasps of astonishment filled drawing rooms. "It cannot be true," exclaimed Lady Amelia, nearly dropping her teacup. Lady Eliza? The Duke's bride. Lady Caroline, who had once called Eliza plain, now looked utterly dumbfounded. The laughter and scorn that had followed Eliza for years evaporated, replaced by a stunned silence, then a wave of reevaluation. People who had once dismissed her as an old maid now saw her in a completely new light. She wasn't just Lady Eliza anymore. She was the woman who had captured the heart of the most desired duke. Her quiet dignity, her intelligence, her gentle nature, which had previously been overlooked, were now viewed as the very qualities that must have enchanted the duke. The gossip shifted from mockery to wonder, from derision to grudging respect. The kingdom was utterly captivated by this most unexpected of romances. The day of the wedding arrived, bright and clear, as if the heavens themselves approved of the match. The ceremony was held in the grand cathedral, adorned with flowers and filled with the gentle glow of stained glass windows. Every important person in the kingdom was there, curious to witness the union of the duke and the woman who had captivated him. Eliza, dressed in a gown of soft ivory silk, walked down the aisle not with the shy steps of old, but with a quiet confidence that shone from within. Her eyes met Alaric's, and in that moment, all the whispers, all the past laughter, faded away. With solemn vows, Alaric and Eliza pledged their lives to each other. When the archbishop pronounced them husband and wife, a ripple of applause, genuine and warm, spread through the cathedral. Eliza was no longer just the quiet, book-loving Lady Eliza. She was now the Duchess of Atherton. The title settled upon her shoulders with grace, not as a heavy burden, but as a recognition of the love she shared with her duke. She had stepped into a new life, a grander role, but she carried with her the same gentle spirit and wise heart that Alaric had fallen in love with. Their marriage was not just a joining of two people, but a testament to a love that had defied expectations and proven that true connection knows no bounds. And so, Duchess Eliza and Duke Alaric began their life together, a life that proved to be as rich and fulfilling as any storybook romance. Their days were filled with shared laughter, quiet companionship, and continued intellectual curiosity. Alaric often found Eliza in the grand library of Atherton Manor, a place even more magnificent than her old cottage, still lost in a book. He would join her, and they would discuss everything from ancient history to the latest scientific discoveries. Eliza, once content with her solitude, blossomed under Alaric's love and admiration. She became a respected duchess, known for her wisdom and kindness, and a beloved partner to her duke. Their love was a beacon, shining brightly for all to see. It showed everyone in the kingdom that true love isn't about youth or grand appearances, but about finding a soul that truly understands and cherishes yours. It proved that love can indeed find you at any age, in the most unexpected of places, and with the most surprising person. The people who had once laughed at Eliza now whispered of her good fortune, and the Duke, once thought to be forever unattached, found his greatest joy in the quiet, intelligent woman he now called his wife. They lived happily ever after, a testament to the enduring power of a genuine connection.